All right guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about one of the most common causes for poor striking and inconsistent golf that I've experienced in my 20 plus years in this game. It's something that's plagued me, and I bet it's plagued you at some point too. All right guys, so we're talking today about the inside takeaway. Something that I see in the lesson tee and I see in golf all the time. So many people struggle with this concept of pulling the club too inside too early and the knock-on effect that causes. And it really does wreak havoc through your golf swing when you do that. The thing that I typically see from golfers who have an inside takeaway is really, really poor sweet spot management. One of the main things, one of the most important things in this game is, can we match up and can we identify where the sweet spot is traveling throughout the swing in order to match up to the golf ball at the moment of truth at impact? I see that. I see really, really poor club delivery tendencies. For the player who gets a little bit inside early, you either stay there under plane and release it out to the right and you kind of hit a bit of a low ropey hooky thing, or you do what inevitably most people do, which is when you take it back too inside too early, you try to lift late, and that's what causes the over-the-top steepening of the shaft. We've watched a million videos, and you guys have too, on shallowing the golf club. This is the reason people have started having to talk about needing to shallow the golf club, because it was never on plane in the first place. If you are able to get the golf club on plane in the first place, there is much less of a need to shallow it, and that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. All right guys, so we're going to hop into some initial testing. We're going to allow the HackMotion sensor to get an idea of our wrist mechanics and our movement pattern and start to get a range within how we swing when we're just trying to hit the ball out towards a target. So I'm going to do this with a 7-iron, nice and basic. I'm going to swing exactly how I would expect to. As I said, I struggle with this. I really do. This has been a real ailment of my golf swing for a long, long time. And one of the things I was most excited about working with the HackMotion device was to be able to stay on top of this, to stop the reoccurring relapse of this poor sort of takeaway in my golf swing. So I'm going to just clip away 5-10 shots, some probably 5 or 6 shots, and let's get some feedback and then we can run through the data. Okay, so immediately gives you that, the biofeedback. One of the things I love about this is you can set yourself up. I do it from home now. I set my tripod up, I put my wrist sensor on, and I start just making some swings. Because ultimately what I feel and what's happening they're disconnected right now. I think that's the thing with all golfers who are doing things that they're feeling like they're struggling to get on top of. My intent is to swing this on plane and hinge at the right time and all these things. So let's run through a couple more. And guys, whether you've got a launch monitor or not when you do this, I like to do it with a launch monitor because there are certain delivery parameters that I'm really trying to get away from. And I like the feedback on the delivery as well. So while I'm getting good feedback, first one was bad, second one was good, I also want to make sure that my dynamic loft with the 7-iron, I like it to be about 22 to 24. I like the angle of attack to be probably 5 to 7 degrees down. That might seem a little high to a lot of you, but that's where I like it to be right now. And I like certainly the club path to be less from the inside. One of the #1 reasons I've struggled with the inside path is because of the inside takeaway. Other things as well. The early extension, we'll talk about all of those things after we get this feedback. Okay, 2 in a row, decent strikes. I can see my dynamic lie angle still a little bit toe down, so I'm still extending a little bit. Try and work in that touch. Okay, starting to get a little bit of a better feel. The HackMotion device tells me. 3 shots. Okay, we're getting lots of biofeedback. Was actually really good. So the idea, obviously, when we're doing this is when we stray in extremes and we're taking the club away, and predominantly if someone's taking it inside, we've got that going on. Okay, the lead wrist gets into flexion, trail wrist gets too extended, and we start to get that club moving behind us, which pushes the trail arm behind the rib cage. That's what we're trying not to do here, and that's what the biofeedback is giving us. Okay, so we'll get 2 more until we get an overview. Now guys, this doesn't need to sound like this. We're doing this for your benefit on the video. We can change the settings so that you guys don't have to listen to that. I can change I can turn the sound off. Biofeedback vibration, I would personally leave that on, right? So this thing, you can't detect, this thing's now vibrating on my wrist. So if I take that club away, it's now off. If I go too much in extension, it's off. If I stay neutral in those wrist positions all the way up to the top of my swing, actually that was too much in flexion. If I stay there to there, it's always vibrating. That would be my preference. Okay, so for the sake of the video, let's put the, hopefully you don't switch off because it's annoying you. Here for a brief second, we lost the feedback. Okay, we got our 5 shots, okay? So we've got an overview of what's going on. Okay, we've got a lot of casting, we know that. We don't have any backswing issues, it's telling us. So actually it's telling me right now that I'm doing okay when it comes to the inside takeaway. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about the golf swing. Let's talk a little bit about the backswing. And this is why some of you, I think, fall into the issues of the inside takeaway. Within the golf swing, we have a rotational component. Okay, we have a part that goes around that we're trying to maximize the tension. We're trying to maximize the sort of the load within our body. We also have an arm swing that has to be very vertical with the wrist hinge, with the arm motion. And it's when you combine a vertical arm motion with a rotational body movement, that's when you get a golf swing that's on plane. The inside takeaway is generally when there is not enough of the lift component to either the wrist, okay, or it's not enough of the arms. So if we are letting the arms stay too attached to the body, and think about all those drills over the years. Think about the drills that everyone's told you. I'm going to turn this biofeedback off. I'm getting feedback left and right. Think about all the drills that people have told you over the years. Oh, towel under the arms. You make a few swings. Now, you really need to be getting the wrist to work up to keep the towel under the arms and get that club moving without taking that inside. The likelihood is most people are going to go inside early and you're going to shorten your arc. You're going to lose some width. You're going to lose the opportunity to create, obviously, speed and an efficient delivery of the golf club. So I would like to address some of the things that I want you guys to think about when it comes to your initial steps in the backswing. So from the setup, it's a nice athletic setup, I would love for you guys to feel like as you take that club away, you're actually going to push down on the handle to elevate the club, okay? Again, when we see the wrist work too much that way, so the wrist can either work that way or they can work that way, okay? They can work into radial, ulnar. We can work into flexion, extension, okay? So if we go both wrists upwards, we call that radial. If we go more radial in the backswing, we will then lose the amount of early inside takeaway. So if I take that club away, and as I take away, I get the club hinging up earlier. It's going to be very hard for me to pull that club on the inside. The things that I want you guys to pay attention to on the screen is my angle of attack will be steeper. My club path will get more neutral because I'm not coming as inside and as shallow with the delivery. So I'm going to pair those feels up for what I would call feel number one, which is more upward wrist hinge, or if you want to think about it in the kind of proper terminology, it's called radial sort of wrist motion. Okay, so let's get that club moving up earlier in the backswing. And some of you might actually want to start the swing from there. Not a bad thing to even just put yourself in that position and from there swing up to the top. But I would like to do it from the normal starting position. In terms of club delivery, we were more neutral on the path. We were more steep in the angle of attack. Great. Got the feedback on the club delivery. Much, much more like it. Okay. As we take the club away, we want those wrists hinging earlier. And it's not just the wrist hinging earlier. I want you to feel like from the sort of palm of your left hand, I want you to feel like you're pushing down on that grip. And when you push down on the grip, that is what will make the club feel like it actually goes up and out ever so slightly. Okay, good setup. We're looking for, as we start a rotation, as we load into that trail side, we want to feel like the left hand, the lead hand, is pushing down on the handle and getting that club to come up, stopping us, getting that club inside early. Okay, starting to neutralize that strike a little bit, which is good. Are we getting steeper? We are reasonably steep. Now what I love to see, that strike is moving out of the heel now. I know I'm getting shallow and into out when I'm starting to deliver the heel too much that way. Shallow into the right with the path is a real difficult spot for me to be in with my own golf swing, and I know a lot of you feel the same. Okay, point number two. So we've got our wrist moving upward in more in a radial fashion. Let's talk about the arms. I want the arms to feel like they are able to lift a little bit more. And it's going to look, if you're able to take some video down the line, and I highly recommend you do that when working through that, you're going to start to get the look of a much more sort of laid off look at the top of your swing. So if we get the wrist working upward and we get pushing down on that handle and we get the arms lifting, we're going to get into that really kind of high hands, that very Justin Thomas-esque kind of hand position, but we're going to get the club laid off a little bit more. Very difficult to get inside and too shallow with your angle of attack when you get the arms lifting a little bit more. Now, the reality is what you feel and what the reality is will be two totally different things. Just make sure you get the feeling that you're overdoing it slightly. Okay, never do it what you think is enough, do it more. Okay, and you can always dial it back afterwards. There'll always be a resetting anyway as time goes on and the swing kind of wants to revert back to what it's always done. It's not a bad thing to always feel like we're exaggerating it. Be curious to what that one was from a delivery standpoint. Wrist conditions were good. Okay, so inside takeaway tip number one was the wrist. Number two was lift the arms. Combine the two, all of a sudden, we are now zeroed out the club path. We're no longer lifting the handle, which tells me there's some shallowing going on within the swing. This is much more of the desirable trend I like to see the backswing go on for those of us, and I include me in it because I'm a struggler in this department, for those of us who struggle with that early inside takeaway. And I feel like, honestly guys, this is my feel right now. Start the takeaway with the body, slight shift of weight to the right, and then go that. That's what I'm feeling right now. Now, it's not doing that at all. It's probably getting to a nice neutral laid off position, but trust me, that's what I'm feeling. Using this for the wrist feedback, and I'm using that for the club delivery feedback. Okay, let's do a couple more. I'm starting to find the middle of the club now. I can feel it coming much more out the middle of the bat, which is really, really nice. Delivery's feeling much better. Okay, not quite as good there. Shallower, more in to out. So, I'll definitely stay on top of that. Last but not least, guys, the third thing that I'm going to give you, which again has helped me and I know will help so many of you. So we've talked about the wrists. We've talked about the arms. Okay, both of those working more up and feeling like they're a little bit more laid off. And I want to talk about this right arm and how I want this right arm to behave, want it to move. I want you guys to feel like the right arm, the trail arm, stays longer in the takeaway. The number one thing I see from people who are struggling with the early inside is the elbow bends early, gets behind the rib cage, and start to really struggle with the position of that. So the trail arm has to stay much longer, much straighter, and then allow us to get into that position there where it doesn't get sucked behind the rib cage. Okay, so let's try and combine those three things. We've got the wrist moving up, the arms lifting, and the right arm staying nice and straight. Starting to look a little bit nicer in the ball flight, more neutral. Be very curious to my delivery metrics. How are they looking? Centeredness of contact has strayed back or shifted back to the middle, which is great. And we're no longer getting stuck in that heel. So guys, there's three things that I think will really help you if you've got the ability to detect this early takeaway. Again, use a camera, use a feedback device, and use something that can track the ultimate result, which is the flight of the golf ball and obviously the motion of the club as well. If you can get some feedback as you do this, it will be so much easier to implement the three things we've talked about today that help you with your inside takeaway. And it's not just the inside takeaway. This will have a ripple effect and a sort of chain reaction all the way through the golf swing. You will stop early extending as much. As we said, the early extension often happens because we're inside early. We've got to steepen on the downswing. Then we have to stand up to give ourselves the room to swing. If we give ourselves that good head start in the golf swing and we get the thing on plane early, we sync up the arm swing with the body turn. Those are two independent sort of actions that you've got to try and marry up the role of both, okay? And understanding that, yep, the body should turn. The body absolutely should. The arms should lift, but they should do it and marry up together in a way that allows you to be nice and neutral with your delivery. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this clarifies some of the things that you guys have been struggling with your own game. I can tell you firsthand, those three things have helped me so much this year in developing a much more neutral, much more repeatable backswing, and it's helped me play better golf, and I think it can do the same for you guys. All right, stay tuned for more. We'll see you again soon.